Hello viewers, this is CPA Charles Cafe, and I'm here to take you through material costing, which is a subtopic under costing accounting, cost and management accounting. So allow me first make you understand what we mean by material costing. What are the materials and what is the material cost? When you meet a question which is asking you to define material, make sure you don't give a definition for material cost. And when they're asking material cost, you make sure you're not giving a definition for material. You separate the two. Materials, this refers to all components or physical substances which are consumed in the production or in the manufacturing of a product or rendering a service. These are the physical substances which are consumed in the process of manufacturing a product or rendering a service. Those are the products. Those are the physical substances or the tangible items which are consumed in the manufacturing of a product. And those materials, they form a big percentage on the product, because these are the raw materials we put in the system, and we employ other costs so that we can convert them into finished goods. The cost of the raw materials is different to the material, because the material themselves, those are the physical items themselves, but the material cost is the cost we incur on those physical substances which are used in the production of a product or rendering a service. So when you talk about the material, those are the physical items, but for the material cost is the cost of those physical substances that are consumed in the process of manufacturing a product. So materials, when you talk about the materials, we have the direct materials and the indirect materials. The direct materials, those are the materials which are directly involved in the production of an item. Those are the physical substances that have been involved in the production of goods and services. But when we talk about the indirect, these are like the supporting materials which cannot be traced on a product. These materials, yes, they are incurred in the production, but they are not directly traceable to the product. You may try to get some of the examples. If let's say the company is dealing in furniture making or a carpentry workshop, the cost of timber is a direct material. But when we talk about the varnish they used to smear on the woods and the nails and the other spare parts they they use in the production of, let's say, a table, a chair. Those ones become the indirect cost, because for them, they act as a supplement to the direct costs, the costs which are really, or the materials which are really traced to the output, or they form a big component of the item. These indirect costs for them, we just they are like supplements which cannot be easily traced on a unit, because you cannot trace a cost of, let's say, varnish, which we use to smear on the surfaces of, let's say, a chair. It is very hard, but you can know the number of units of, let's say, wood which we use to manufacture those, let's say, chairs. So you get to know those differences, that the direct materials, these are the materials whose costs can easily or conveniently be traced to the final product. For example, cotton that is used in textile mills or industries. The cotton itself is a direct material, but other supplements which are used on top of the cotton, those are the indirect material. But the main product, or the main item which form a big component of a product, is the cotton. So the indirect materials, these are costs, these are materials indirectly used for converting raw materials into finished goods. You can talk about the varnish for furniture, spare tires, tools. These tools, these are the loose tools, they are like spare parts. Then the nails, lubricant, and others. The combination of both the direct material and the indirect material costs form the total cost of the raw materials, or total cost of the materials. Here we have defined the direct materials and the indirect materials, but they may ask you, what are the direct material costs? The only difference is that when you are defining the direct material cost, instead of using, like here we said these are materials, you just say these are costs, which can easily be traced on a particular product. If they say materials with not material cost, you put materials whose cost can be easily traced to the product. I hope that one is clear. Allow me look at material control. Material control, this involves planning, controlling, and scheduling the material right away from the procurement, storing, and usage of material with an objective of earning economy or efficiency. Material costing, material control is just aiming at how can we control these costs we are incurring, or how can we control wastages? How can you make sure that the materials we've got, they are not too expensive? We've minimized the cost, and on top of minimizing the cost, we have also made sure that these raw materials, we have used them efficiently. That's all about the material control. We are aiming at achieving economy And economy means minimizing costs and efficiency. With efficiency, we are on the side of eliminating the wastages, so that we can be able to produce good quality items, and we use less materials, and we've incurred less costs. That's all about the material control. Material control involves quantity control, and this quantity control involves policies and procedures put in place to ensure that the minimum amount of material is used in the production and service department. As I said, we are aiming at, first of all, minimizing the number of raw materials we are going to be using in the production process. And how can we do that? By acquiring good quality raw materials in the production, because when you get goods of raw materials which are of a good quality, you can be able to use less materials than when you get raw materials which are substandard, and you find that you are using more units of materials, because the materials will be consumed at a very high rate since it is of low quality. So by controlling this, we make sure we get raw materials that is of a good quality. That's how we can make sure we have a quantity control. The other one we can talk about in terms of the quality control. The quality control over procedures and policies put in place to ensure material quality standards are complied with at all times. When you get materials of a high quality, you are expected to produce goods which are of a high quality. And by doing so, you are, first of all, minimizing the costs which you are going to be incurring in procuring more materials which are of a low quality, if you are using raw materials which are of a low quality. So that's how we can achieve the quality control. Then the other one is the financial control, whereby we minimize the amount of money we are spending on the raw materials we are buying. Yes, we make sure we are buying raw materials of a high quality, but we also go ahead and consider the fact that we are not supposed to buy those raw materials at a very high cost. So by doing so, we are reducing on the financial costs we are incurring in procuring materials. I hope you guys, you've got that. Allow me to proceed to the next one, and we'll talk about the objectives of material control. Okay, the objectives of material control. When we control when we control the usage or the purchase of the raw materials we are introducing into our production process, we are able to receive materials and store them properly. So by storing those materials properly, you are maintaining a quality to the extent that when you store those, because some of the substances or some of the materials, they have different reactions towards the conditions, the environmental conditions. So when you store them badly, you will find that some of them can be spoiled and others can get contaminated. So When you make sure that you are storing the items under necessary conditions, you may find that you are achieving the material control. The other one, to ensure proper production and the preservation of raw materials. When you control the material in terms of, let's say, the quantity, we know the materials we want and the quality of the material we want, we are able to produce or to continue producing the output without holding into our production, because we've procured the rightful amount of raw materials and of a good quality. So we are making sure that the items we have brought, they are of good quality, so we are able to improve our production and we preserve those raw materials we have. The third one is to make sure that proper classification and coding of materials. Proper classification of raw materials, you group the raw materials depending on, let's say, on their process, because you may be having that process A is taking this kind of raw materials, so you group it according to, let's say, the production process. You may group according to their similarities or some similar attributes. And by doing so, you are making sure that the material you've acquired is at the right place and at the right time when it is needed. The other one is coding. The coding of raw material is that we will code the material as per the numbers we've given. Let's say we can say this material, we bought it in a lot number this. So depending on the system you're using, you can say that as per the material we have, we are making sure that the materials which came first are transferred to the production process so that they can be produced or processed into final products, so that we can eliminate the wastages and other kinds of delays and obsolescence which may occur when we keep stock for that. Let's say the material which came first, we leave it and we first handle the material which came first. It depends on which system the company or the organization is using. The fourth one is to provide proper information to management about the stock of raw material. When you control the material, you are able to get the information about the number of units of the raw materials we have, the quality. You can even know the value of those raw materials, which can help management to make decisions and take control of some of the costs we've incurred. The other one we can talk about to ensure good housekeeping and effective material handling. When you control the material, you are able to know which material needs which conditions, whereby it will be very easy for you to know that this material is supposed to be kept under these conditions, and you can make sure that those materials are catered for before they reach the store. The other one, to assist in verification and provision of supporting information for efficient or effective purchase action. When you've controlled the material, you are able to get the necessary information which can be used when you're doing another purchase. If, let's say, when you have kept proper records of the materials we bought, and we know which suppliers we got those items which were of a good quality, we can always refer to those records, and we try to find out how we can make sure that we are handling the purchase easily, and we respond to the queries which may arise. The other one, to make sure that all types of desired quality are available when needed for effective production. When you make sure that you control your material, you are able to know the rightful amount of raw materials that is needed to a certain production process. So when you're able to know all of that information, it means even the production will not be on hold because of certain material issues. You'll be having everything that is needed when the production is taking place. The other one we can talk about to ensure the optimal investment in material to avoid overstocking or understocking of raw materials. When you are controlling, when you take good control of the raw materials, you'll find that you'll avoid these wastages, whereby you will not overstock. You will be knowing all the information and all the kind of material that is needed in every department in order for the production to take place. So it will help you avoid the overstocking of goods, which may lead to wastages. The other one we can talk about to maintain proper record about material receipts, issues, and balances. These are concerned by recording of the materials we've got. When we've received the material, let's say we have purchased the material, we make sure that we record the information in terms of the items or number of quantities we have purchased, their prices, and when we issue out some of these materials, we make sure that we also make sure that we adjust our stock ledgers and stock cards or the bin cards to make sure that we have the rightful amount, so that we can manage our minimum and the maximum stock levels or the order levels. The last one is to ensure issues as per specifications. When you do the proper recording of the information, you can know that if the person wants this and this amount of raw materials, I'll be knowing where to pick that information, because I had already recorded and I had kept those goods in different places depending on which department those items are supposed to be working. Okay, allow me to proceed to the next one, and I'm going to be talking about the policies to consider in order to achieve those objectives we have just given above. How are we going to, what are the methods we are going to use so that we can achieve those objectives? Or what are the things we are supposed to do so that we achieve those objectives we've highlighted above? One of them, we are saying proper selection of suppliers that are ready to meet the needs of the firm at all times. Meaning, if you make sure during your procurement process that you shortlist suppliers who can deliver materials to the company at any time the material is needed, whether the money is paid or is not paid, that supplier must be able to supply those raw materials as at when they are needed. So when that one is done, you are sure that material will be available and the production will also take place without any delays, because you have made sure or done the rightful way in when we are doing the procurement, that we selected the people who can supply us the goods as and when they are needed. Then the second one, what we should do so that we can achieve those objectives we have given above, is that we maintain the stock records against which materials are recorded when received and being issued. When you are preparing these stock records, most of the documents we prepare, those are the bin cards, whereby we just put the quantity of the raw materials we've, let's say, purchased or we've issued out or we've returned. Let's say the supplier, we put all that in the bin card. So when we maintain a continuous stock taking within the organization, it helps in monitoring our stock levels so that we can know when to do another purchase, and we'll be knowing how much are we left with, what is our minimum or the maximum stock levels, so that we'll be knowing when and how to purchase the material which is needed for the production to be continuing. The third step is regular stock taking, monitoring of stock items and the material audit to establish and reconcile physical stocks against the stock records. When we record this information, we don't stop there. We go ahead and we check the actual raw materials and we see, because we may be recording, yes, in the store we have such and such amount of material, but you may find that some of the materials may get damaged from there. So you have, instead having recorded the information that you have the rightful figure, make sure you go ahead and cross-check with the goods themselves to confirm whether the goods are still in their right quality. And if they are in the right quality, then you verify with what is in the records. You make sure you go ahead and do the stock counting. You count the items and you verify, or you compare with the records you have, let's say in the bin card or the store ledgers. You see the balances which is on the store ledger, whether it is exactly the same which is in the physical items themselves. The other one we can talk about provision of proper storage facilities. As I said, if these materials, they are not kept safe, some of the materials can get contaminated, others can get damaged just because they are not kept in a good environment. Because some materials, you may find some of the materials are delicate and they can easily react to the climatical changes, whereby you'll find that you are changing the quality of the raw materials. So if you want to achieve a better material control, we have to be having a proper storage facilities, whereby we can make sure that everything is kept safe. The second last, we can talk about separation of duties, such as departments involved in handling materials as separate. This separation of duties is mainly in these big companies, because these small organizations, you find it is hard for them to be distributing those different departments. But it is better you do the separation of duties, whereby the people who are handling materials, let them be separate from those people who are in the procurement department. You be the procurement department, let it be somewhere, but you have also the store keepers or the material inspectors, whereby they can always notify you whenever they find that some of the materials are getting spoiled, others are getting outdated, whereby you can be able to get every information that, or monitor whatever the raw materials you may have kept in the store. So we need to separate the duties. We leave the procurement department to do only the role of procuring the raw materials and looking for the suitable suppliers of the raw materials. But when you have received the items, let those items be handled by the stores department. The last one we can talk about, material purchasing should be done centrally by a qualified person. As we are going to see in the next slides, how we can procure goods using centralized system. But to talk about briefly about it is, this centralized system is where organization, or where the purchasing function of an organization is only handled by one person, that the different departments within the organization, they submit in their requisition letters or notes to ask for the raw materials they want to use in their department. Now it will be the role of the procurement officer or the purchasing manager to go in the market and try to look for the customers which can supply the goods on a given date and in a specified period of time within the rightful quantity that is needed in the organization. So when you do that, you make sure that the company is receiving the good quality materials which can be used to produce good quality output or products. So having known the policies that we should use to achieve a good quality or a good material control, then allow me to take you through the purchasing or the procurement function. Because we've been talking about how the materials reaches in the store, but we want to find out how do we look for the customers, for the suppliers who are going to supply raw materials to the company. And this is the procurement function. When you are doing these course units, don't focus much about going into the deeper procurement department, because this cost and management accounting, we just take some highlights on some of the things. But when you're reading, don't go deep into the procurement, because procurement itself is a different, and it is a broad idea or concept which is a different discipline on its own. So when you're reading through these notes, make sure you're just taking just the highlights to help you understand what is done in the procurement department. So when we are doing the procurement, we are just going to look at how we look for the client, for the suppliers who are going to supply goods on let's say on credit or by cash, and we look at the documents. What are some of the documents we need to prepare so that the procurement process goes well. So the procurement function, the procedure of material acquisition and control vary in different organizations. We say the procedure of material acquisition and control vary in different organizations, but all of them follow a general pattern in the purchase. Receipt, storage, and issuance of materials. Here we are trying to look at certain companies use different procedure of how they purchase their items and how they control them. It depends on the size of the organization, but at least what they have in common is that when they are procuring the items, they go through the same stage. Even at the time when they're receiving the materials they have bought, they also go through the same procedure. Even when they are storing those goods, they go through the same procedure. And even when they are issuing out the materials, they also go through the same procedure. The rest may be different, but those ones, they are the same to all the organizations, whether it is an NGO, whether it is a government entity, they all go through this procedure of procuring certain items or material. The function of purchasing and receiving of materials fall under the purchasing department, while issuing and storage are under the department of store keeping, which also falls under the purchasing department, which serves as a support service or a supplementary in an organization. Here we are talking about that when you're buying the goods or when you're buying the raw materials from the suppliers, that role is handled by the procurement manager or the procurement department. But when we are receiving the items, we don't receive the item through the purchasing department. We receive those items through the stores department, but that stores department is under a broad umbrella of the procurement department. The stores department is the one responsible for the issuing. Why? Because we've already received the materials and we've kept the materials in the store. So they are the one who's responsible when the material is moving out. And they are also responsible for the storage, how the raw materials are kept when they are in the store. So I hope you have got that. The basic objective of material purchasing function is to ensure continuous supply of raw materials to production and maximum reduction of the cost product. The main emphasis here is that when you are purchasing the raw materials, we expect that the material are going to be there on a continuous basis when we need the materials. So if we are to maintain a continuous supply of the raw materials, it comes as a result of selecting a supplier who is capable of supplying the company with the required material and as when it is needed. Secondly, we don't stop there. Having received the raw materials, we are also aiming at how can we reduce the costs we are incurring. When we reduce the cost we are incurring on the raw materials, we are also reducing, or we are also indirectly reducing the cost of the product. Because if we buy the raw materials at a cheaper price, we expect even the cost of the output to be cheap. So we don't concentrate normally on the raw materials, that making sure that they are available as to when they are needed, but we also go ahead and ensure that we receive those raw materials after screening those suppliers, and we see who is capable of supplying us the raw materials continuously, and they also supply us those items of a high quality but at a very minimal cost. That's all about the procurement function. So let me talk something brief about the procurement manager and the roles and the qualities, because if you don't have that person, then you will not be able to get the continuous supply of the raw materials, and you will not also be able to reduce the cost because you have an incompetent procurement manager. Let me talk about the procurement or the purchase manager. This is an officer always in charge of ensuring that the right quantities and qualities of materials are purchased at the right time, right price, and from the right source. So those are the things they do. They do source out the suppliers. Having sourced out the suppliers, they make negotiations with the suppliers depending on the quotations they have incurred and the quantity and the quality of the material, if the person can supply the rightful amount of material that is needed in the production process. Then they also bargain about the time, when and where they are supposed to deliver the items. So when you are talking about the procurement manager, we have to know some of the qualities. I'm just going to talk about like 3 of them, but there are many. You can search about them and you add on your own. One of them will have integrity. Personal integrity is an important quality of the purchase manager, because purchasing those materials involves committing or putting in a lot of money in the process. When you are procuring those items, we are spending a lot of money. So when the person is not when the person is integrity or the capacity, someone, you can't trust the person that this person cannot really do something on his or her own knowledge and based on their skills, then we expect that that person is going to make us put the money in onto a wrong, and it will cost us when you are producing those items and make the goods become very expensive. The other one we can talk about initiative. When you are talking about initiative, you know, when you're dealing with so many suppliers, because you first shortlist the suppliers, you first search for the suppliers, you get their quotation, then you start screening them. So if someone cannot initiate, like someone can give you an offer, you've seen the company is capable of providing you the materials you need and the right quality you want, but you find that the price is the only making a difference, whereby the person has to at least have that say, whereby they can negotiate with the suppliers, and you see that the company is benefiting. So it's not that the person is just supposed to be there to just receive things and make decisions depending on whatever they have brought. They have to put in their own efforts to make sure that we've got alternative sources, we've got whatever is needed for the materials to be provided to the company. Then there is also ability to learn. Someone who is there all the time to learn, because when someone is connected to the market or to the market forces of demand and supply, there are so many changes. At some point, you may find that even the price itself, it keeps on changing. So when someone goes into the market, you should be able to learn more new ideas, which you will bring to the management when you're advising them on which procurement advice you could give to them management. I hope those ones will be enough. Allow me give you some of the duties. The other one, we are talking about the qualities, but let me talk also about the duties of a purchasing manager. What will be the roles of the purchasing officer or manager? What will be the roles and responsibilities of this person? First of all, to organize and direct the procurement function effectively. How can you direct the procurement function effectively? Is by making sure, because we go by the main objective of the procurement department, that it is supposed to give us the continuous supply of materials, and we minimize at a minimum costs. So you go through the whatever someone is supposed to do to make sure that there is a continuous supply, and at the end of the day, we are reducing on the cost of production. The other thing we can talk about is to prepare purchase budgets, because when you've made the negotiation, before you go to the field to make negotiations, you have to first know what are the demands, what are the company demands as far as the production is concerned. Having known the item we want, then you can draft a budget, or you make a forecast that basing on whatever we used let's say last year, we assume that this year we shall add an extra of this, or we shall reduce. depending on how what you produced went or were sold and how the remaining can be sold. So you prepare the budgets before you go to the field, you know, before you go to the field to look for the suppliers, you know what you really want. The other one is to advise the procurement committee on the right source of supply. You advise because you are the one going in the field. So you should be knowing people who can supply the company, the materials, and you should also be knowing the price, how they can supply, how fast can they supply the material, and at what cost. So you'll be advising the company, because in this advice you may be, let's say you may be having a supplier who can supply goods of a right quality, of a good quantity, but the supplier is, let's say, far away from where you are operating from, whereby if you are to incur, you will be incurring, when you're transporting those bulk materials, you will be incurring a lot of costs. You can advise the management to buy at a place which is near, but even if the price is a bit high, but you compare the transport costs that is supposed to be added to the cost if you take the other long distance supplier. Those are some of the guidelines someone is expected to give the management. The other one is to execute agreement and placing of orders on supplies. When you shortlist the suppliers, they give you their quotations. When you have got the quotations, of course, they have their terms and conditions on how they deliver those items and when you should make an order so that they can deliver in the time you are saying. And they also have their terms, like in terms of the trade discounts and the cash discounts, depending on whatever they had put there. So you have to go ahead and go through whatever the company is suggesting, then you compare with what you really want and you see if you can achieve what you are supposed to do. Because by the time you press a purchase order, you are able that, and you are really willing to cooperate with whatever conditions those people are giving you. Next one, we can talk about follow-up of purchase orders to ensure timely delivery of the ordered goods. When you make an order for raw materials, you make sure you don't just stop there that I made my order, so I'm just waiting for them to respond to me. You keep emailing them, calling them, finding out how fast is it for the company to receive whatever they are ordered. The reason as why they are supposed to be doing so is that when you don't do so, you may find that the production will reach at a point that the material is done and people cannot work because the material is also completed. So to avoid those things, you make sure that you keep following on the orders you've made so that they are delivered in the period when they are needed. The other one is receiving the material as per the specifications and placing of orders. That one is self-explanatory. Then we can talk about the inspecting and testing of the raw materials. When you buy the items, you will have some of them you may test to find out whether the quality you are requesting is exactly what they are offering to you. Most of the times when they are when suppliers are sending their quotations, especially to those items which needs to be tested to confirm their quality, some of the suppliers, they, on top of the quotation, they make sure they put even a sample of the item so that they can test and confirm whether it is equating to the standard that the organization needs. The other one, we can talk about return the material with which are not in order with, return the material which are not in accordance with the orders. That one is self-explanatory. Allow me explain the one for the confirmation and authorization of bills of payment for the supplier. Of course, they are the ones they confirm. Reason is that they are the ones who initiated the process of procurement. So they have to confirm that what they made in a purchase order is exactly what they have received. So they arrange or they authorize the payment that it's okay, you go ahead and pay. We've received the exact information or the exact material that we ordered for. Then the last one we can talk about to give suggestions to top management for important purchasing decision making. That one we spoke about it. You advise the management on how the purchase or the requisition of materials should be handled. Having known the duties of the purchasing manager, let's also talk about some of the inventory records or some of the documents which are used in the procurement department. Because we said in the procurement department, there is a stores department, which is within the what? The procurement. So we expect one of the records or the books we have in the procurement department, we have a bin card. A bin card is only and only responsible for recording the quantities, not the monetary values. We are only recording the quantities of the material we've received, materials we've issued, materials we've returned, and the balances. We are only recording the quantity only, not the monetary value. So, bin card, this is a detailed document showing the quantity of goods kept inside the store and prepared by the storekeeper at every point of time. He or she records every receipts, issue, and balances. So when we know the balances, we've known what we've issued out, what we've received, we can also know the maximum and the minimum, and the reorder level, when to place another order. Or we know which amount are we supposed not to exceed, so that we don't understock our material. And what is the maximum that we should be having, so that we don't overstock our materials. Then the store ledger. The store ledger is where we record the quantity and the value, or the monetary value of the material. We record that in terms of the issues, the receipts, and the balances. They also help us in maintaining the stock levels. But when you are preparing the store ledger cards, for them, since we are attaching the monetary value, then the concept will come as, how are we pricing these items we are receiving? Then we shall be using other different methods of inventory valuation, which include the first in, first out, and the last in, first out, or the weighted average cost Those are the three methods we use when you are valuing the stock in the store ledger cards. And the reason why we are putting the price component or the cost component, we are trying to look at the value of the closing stock. When we know our closing stock, we can transfer that figure and we use it in other, when you are preparing financial statements, because you know that the closing stock will appear in both the balance sheet and the income statement. So I'm going to give you some of the differences between the bin card and the store ledger. Because we said in the bin card, we are only recording the quantity. There is no monetary value that is attached. But for the store ledgers, there is monetary value. Then we can also talk about where these cards are, where they kept. That's also a difference. That in the bin card, those, since we are just recording the quantity, they are supposed to be in the store ledger. But for the stock ledger cards, since for them they have the monetary value, then they are supposed to be in the accountancy or the cost accountancy department. In the bin card, transactions are posted individually. You do each item is posted on a different bin card. But in the store ledger card, you may find that we can do even like for a certain period, we can make sure that we are recording one bin card which is having, let's say, on a monthly items we purchased on a monthly basis, let's say on a quarterly basis. Then in the bin card, posting is done at the time of issue of material. That's when we make the recording. But when you are in a store ledgers, we make issues. Posting is done after the issue of the materials. The last one, entries in the bin card are posted by the issue clerk, whereas the other side they are posted by the store ledger clerk. And in all of them, we are aiming at recording the quantity and the amount. In the bin card, we are aiming at recording the quantity of the minimum, maximum, and the reorder levels. But for the store ledger card, for them, we want to put even the quantity plus the item plus the value themselves. So allow me go to the stores management systems. These are the systems which we use when we are doing the purchase. So when we are doing the purchase, these are some of the few things we can use. One of them is the central store. Under this system, the storage and purchase of material for the whole organization is done under one department headed by the procurement manager. For this one, every department submits its purchase requisitions, notes or letters to the central purchasing department, and they are all handled by the procurement manager or the purchasing manager. But all the departments within the organization, which may be the production department, finance department, marketing department, and other departments, for their heads of those departments makes the requisition, and those requisitions, they are submitted to the procurement manager so that you can go ahead and make the orders. As you see the diagram, all the other departments, they are giving out their purchase requisitions to the central purchasing department, and it is only the purchasing manager which is supposed to go to the market or to look for the suppliers. Well, let me talk about the advantages of the central purchasing system, and one of them is that it is cheaper. Cheaper in the sense that we can pay less since we are buying in a bulk, or we are buying a lot of items. They can give us trade discounts and other discounts depending on the number of items we are taking. So when the item, because when it is only one department buying the items, it means we are going to be having a lot of items we are purchasing. So when you are purchasing a lot, you expect to be receiving trade discounts, which are a benefit to the organization. So it will be cheap. The other one we can talk about, it ensures the right quality and quantity because of specialized personnel. Here we are using a qualified person to go and to go in the market and look for the suppliers who can supply us with the material that is of high quality and the quantity we need. So we are capable of getting the material that is of a high quality. And since it is handled by the professional person, so we expect even the continuity of supply to be good, because it can outsource the people who can do a supply to the company. The other one we can talk about, buying and carrying costs can be reduced because of bulk purchasing. You know, when you are purchasing goods in high value or in high quantities, you may find that even where you are buying those items, they are giving you free transport, to the extent that even the people who are going to give you transport, even if the supplier doesn't give you the transport, when you are giving these transporting companies to transport your goods, they will not charge you highly, because you will be giving them more jobs, because you are buying in bulk. There is a lot to be done. So the costs tend to be a bit lower as compared to somewhere where people are buying in few items. There is minimum investment in stock, since the requirements of all departments can be pulled for determining the stock levels to be held. There is minimum stock investment because we go in the market at once and we buy whatever the whole organization is going to be using. So from there, we are sure that this department needs this amount, because we can know that this department needs this amount of resources or materials for its activities to take place. So we shall be knowing the level, these stock levels, how and when the material is supposed to be done, and how we can make another purchase. The last one we can talk about is a reduction in expenditures. In these expenses, you can talk about when you're paying so many, when there are so many clerical staffs or clerks, which is minimized by this central processing, because it is only one department handling, we are not supposed to recruit every supporting staff to come and be in each department to cater for the store or the material we are purchasing. It's everything is catered for by one person, so some staffs are eliminated, and when you are eliminating some of these staffs, it means you are reducing on the cost of production. So allow me take you through to the disadvantages. Yes, it is okay. We've got very nice advantages out of the central purchasing system, but there are also other disadvantages. One of them will have high cost of transporting heavy and bulk materials to the user department. Sometimes they may find that yes, you are transporting the goods in bulk, or the workload is there, but the things are very heavy because you are purchasing heavy item or so many items. So it becomes very heavy to the extent that you are supposed to incur a lot of expenses in terms of loading and offloading of these transporting companies, which increases also the cost of production. The other thing we can talk about, the material issues may be delayed because of many formalities. For example, these requisitions, they go through different steps. The head of department first approves. After approving, then you give it to the procurement. The procurement also goes through. There is a lot of bureaucracy there. So by the time the material is needed, and someone has to go through that process to make sure that the order is, or the requisition of certain items are bought, you find that we may lack stock just because of the formalities that we have to go through so that we get the stock on board. The other one, it is risky to keep all materials in one central store. In case of losses by fire, by floods, or theft, we lose everything. It is very risky to keep everything, all the company documents at the same point. We keep the checkbooks in the same way we are keeping the other stationery. So we may lose some items because of keeping everything at the same time. It is not safe and it is a bit risky. The last one, we can talk about lack of good keeping and material handling because of overcrowding. The materials are congested in one room. You have the checks, you have other stationery, you have other materials that are used in the cleaning, you have everything at the same place, meaning the goods are congested. There are also, some of them may be even contaminated because of you are putting everything at one point. Let me talk about the other type of, the other system, which is the decentralized purchasing. Decentralized purchasing is the opposite of the centralized purchasing, meaning the disadvantages of the centralized purchasing becomes the advantages of the decentralized, and the disadvantages of the centralized become the advantages of decentralized purchasing. So I'm not going to give you the advantages and the disadvantages, but I just want you to use that approach whereby the advantages for decentralized purchasing, there will be the disadvantages of decentralized and vice versa. Under this system, all departments within the organization can fulfill their own demands by doing localized purchasing. Every department, let the finance department go to the market and buys whatever they want from there. Let the marketing department go to the market and they buy whatever they want. Each department makes its own procurement process. In this one, the advantage you can talk about, one of them you can say that in this process, there are no delays because of following the formalities, because it is only the head of, when the head of department approves, you go in the market and you buy. That's how it is. It is very fast, meaning we cannot lack stock. So I told you, you check the other side and you look for the advantages and the disadvantages. Let me go to another type of store, which is the impressed store. Impressed stores, these are the system which based on the cash, on the petty cash. It's where the company makes, they buy items. Let's say if the company is shipping the raw materials from abroad, they budget that this amount of money will be enough for the period. And by doing so, they go in the market and they buy the materials as per the plan and they bring to the organization, meaning that material is already budgeted and they know that this material is supposed to serve for this period. It is mainly used in those big companies where they use specialized standard materials, whereby those materials, maybe they get them from far, so they are supposed to order them in large numbers and they keep it for some periods. That's how it is. Allow me go to, maybe to give you the some of the advantages of this impressed costs. There is reduction in clerical work as materials are requisitioned only once in the period. We can, let's say, assume that this year we may use stock of 10 million. We go in the market, we buy that stock of 10 million, we bring at office. We have done it we have done that one once. It is no more going back there. Then the other one we can talk about, it is easy to calculate the material usages as the same is the difference between the impressed cost and the closing stock. We can determine the amount of the material we have used. We can just get the quantity we bought, we less the closing stock, so we shall be knowing what we've used. The other one we can talk about the risks arising from delay in production and the production hold-ups owing to delays in delivery of material. Here we are not expecting delays because the material, they come before even the production starts. We budget and we say we may use this, let's say 10,000 tons of, let's say, cotton. So we provide that 10,000 tons and we keep them until the period we estimated. Whatever remains becomes the opening stock for the next month. And we can just deduct what has remained from what we have bought to get the materials we've used. And when we get the materials we've used, we can use even that one to be as a benchmark for making a forecast for the next coming period. Allow me to talk about some of the documents we use in material control. Some of these documents we use in the material control have the material requisition note. We've been talking about the requisition. Now this is the material requisition note. It is a request made to the purchase department to procure material of a given description and a required quality and quantity within a specified period of time. What we are supposed to be knowing is that we put the time when we need the materials, meaning we are supposed to request for the material before the old stock is done, depending on our stock levels. The other one, we are supposed to put the quality and the quantity we want. Then the last one we can put is that we submit the request to the procurement department. If at all we are using the central, the decentralized system of purchasing. If it is just the other decentralized, then we just go by the heads of department, they approve and we get everything. So this document is prepared in triplicate. We prepare 3 copies. The first copy is kept by the person who is initiating the purchase. That is the first copy. Then the original one, we give it to the procurement department, and the other copy we may put it to the approvers. So that when you are distributing those copies, by the time the other procurement approves, even the other approver, you may find that they have already approved. Or by the time they go through, even the other parties, they are going through and they can make changes as to when they need and whatever they want to exclude. The other document you can talk about is a bill of material. This is a summary showing all the materials required for a particular job or a production run. This is just a list of whatever that is needed in the production or that is needed for the production to take place. It is an advance requisition to the storekeepers for making available the desired material at an appropriate time. This one, it is prepared for in advance. Remember, when you are when you are making a requisition, it may be by a department, but in the stores department, for them, they make, when they are preparing this bill of material, they make it for the whole organization. But each department keeps on making a requisition depending on whatever they want. But there is already a bill of material that is already there for the whole company. Then generally 4 copies of it are prepared, and 1 copy goes to each of the following departments. We have the stores department, production department, cost accountant department, and the production planning department. And it is useful for the following. 1, provides a quantitative estimate of the budget of material required for a given job or process. It substitutes material requisitions and expedites the issuance of material. Thirdly, it provides a basis for charging material cost to the respective cost centers or processes or jobs. When you know the list of material that, let's say, a certain department wants, you will be able to ascertain the costs that are going to be incurred in that process or in that department. The other one, the storekeeper can draw up a plan of material purchase and issue for a given time. So allow me go to a next document, and the next document is called goods received note. The material receiving section is responsible for receiving the goods and verifying the contents of the packages along with the goods received note sent by the supplier. When the supplier sends the goods to the company or to the organization, the supplier provides also the goods received note, identifying the items that were supplied as per the purchase order we drew to the supplier. So when the receiving department, they receive those goods, they start inspecting what is the quality they have provided us and what did we ask for in our procurement or in our purchase order. This section should ensure that the goods have been received as per the purchase order and recorded in the same consignment. A consignment is like a lot that is sent from the supplier or a batch of goods that are requested for by the organization. That's a consignment. But a consignment document is a document containing the goods that have been supplied. So generally, this goods received note is in 5 copies. And those ones, they show how the material we've requested and how we've received and how many we've received. The original is sent to the purchasing department, 1 copy the stores department, inspection, accounts, and others also retained by the receiving department. Then the other one, we can talk about material delivery note. This describes what a package contains, including the description and the quantity of goods delivered, and gives an overview of what the recipient had ordered and what has been sent to them. This is more like the goods received note, but it is a bit different. This one comes with the goods. This one shows the goods we've received. And we compare those goods with our purchase order. So I hope you can get the difference between those two. We have a material return note. That one shows the goods we are returning. Either they may be we may be returning the goods to the supplier, or it is we are returning the goods from the people who have issued. We may receive the goods and we issue the goods, let's say, to our departments within the organization. And some of the materials, they have not used them, so they return some of them. It may be within the organization, or it may be when we are giving it out to the supplier. We have the material transfer form. That one is it's a transfer when you are moving goods from one place to another. Then the last one, let me talk about this one as the last one, which is the purchase order. Because I don't want to go more into these. This is a procurement, as I told you, it is a procurement discipline of which we are not supposed to go through deep into this. What we are supposed to know is briefly how the goods are purchased. What are some of the documents? What are the advantages and the disadvantages? Those are the things we are supposed to be knowing. The rest is not covered before in our syllabus. The purchase order, this is a letter sent to the successful or the selected supplier asking them to supply the specified amount. Now the purchase order is done when you have when the organization has already screened the person who has been selected by the company to supply those items, then they give them what they really want. Because by the time when they are searching for the suppliers, they send in their quotations. When they send in their quotations, we view the quotations. After reviewing the quotations, we select which one can supply the items, and not stopping there, we also go ahead and check is going to supply those items at what cost. So we select the one which is going to give us the rightful quality and quantity, but at a least price. Because that is the main emphasis of the purchasing department or section within the organization. So that is how it is. We put the quantity, the terms, the time of delivery, and the location where they're supposed to deliver those goods. We put even the rates. Those are the most of the, we are not going to, I'm not going to be drawing these documents so that you can have a look at them, because at our level, they will not be asked. No one can ask you that you present for me, draw for me a purchase order. But what you should know, what are some of the things which must be there. Of course, we expect the rate to be there, or that's the cost price. We expect the terms of the supplier. We have the quantity, the time of delivery, and where the location, where to deliver those. Those are the things. If you know where you are taking the goods, you have the price, you know the amount, you know the time they want them, then you deliver. That's all we are interested in knowing. But this purchase order is also prepared in 5 copies. The original is sent to the supplier, then these other ones, some of them is retained, because as you know, the purchase order is originating from the purchase department. So the purchase department, since is the one submitting the purchase order, is supposed to remain with a copy. Then the storekeeping will have a copy for confirming the goods when they receive them. Then the accounts for preparing the payments. Then the inspection also to view the quantities, the value, the qualities, and other things they may inspect on the commodity. Then let me give you some, because I thought about this one, that why shouldn't I give you some, what are the reasons, why are we supposed to be knowing those source documents or the supporting documents? There is a reason why we are supposed to be knowing those ones. Of course, when you know a document, let's say the purchase order, what is the use of a purchase order? Those are the things we are going to talk about here. Reasons for keeping the supporting documents. If, let's say, when you supply goods and they give you an invoice, what is the use for that invoice? If they give you a receipt, what will be the use of that invoice? Those are the things that receipt. Those are the things we are looking at. All materials be either from the supplier or the local market should be properly authorized by the concerned people, because it acts as a proof that material purchase has been approved. So whenever you are making a purchase, even if you are just going to be buying those goods by cash, they are supposed to be having a signature of the approver to confirm that those items we've bought, they were actually authorized to buy them, or we needed them in the organization. That's why we are authorized to buy them. The other one we can talk about is, upon receiving the materials from the supplier, they should record to ensure that material have been duly received in the store. Because if you don't get those goods received not, and you you try to get the items they have supplied and you record them in the books. We are not going to be having any information of which we shall be using to generate other statements. So it is important when they bring those goods, when we've received them, record them so that we know the quantities, the quality, and the price. So where are we recording this information? The quantities, we can put them in the bin card, as we said, or in the store ledger cards. There should be an invoice from the supplier for the material that has been delivered. And if paid by cash, the receipt should be provided to provide the documental evidence for material cost. Because we want to know that we've bought this item at this price. So how are we confirming that? By getting either the invoice or we get the receipt to confirm the exact figure we've incurred. Lastly, we can talk about when material delivered should be recorded, and even when returns or issues to different departments or cost centers, hence knowing the cost of material used in each department. When you have received those materials and when we are returning, or when we receive some goods, let's say from our other departments, the unused materials or the remained materials, we should also adjust so that we can know that each department has used this and this amount of material. We know the cost and we know the amount. The last one I'm going to be talking about is the procurement process, because we've been talking about how goods enters into the organization, but we haven't known which steps are we going through so that we can procure goods. So this is just a brief idea. I did not explain as in making notes on each of every item, but at least having understood what I explained, what I've been explaining, we can just get the information on whatever things you are seeing here, because they are very easy. And I can, maybe to just help you clarify some, let me just start with when there is a need for raw materials, that's where it is, everything starts from. When there is a need for raw material, let's say we need raw materials to produce certain items or as per the client order. If let's say we have an order from the client and we want to give the client the items, but the items themselves or the products, they are not available. So what we do, having received an order or having known that there is a need for a certain item, we do the requisition. We write the purchase requisition, and that purchase requisition, it is a form showing whatever amount of raw materials we want, the quantity, the quality, the time when we need it, and we submit those requisition forms to the purchasing department or to the procurement manager. When we submit those documents, then we may be using either the centralized, but let me use the centralized. For example, when the company is using the centralized system, Having submitted that requisition forms to the purchasing manager, the purchasing manager goes into the market and starts looking for suppliers. That's the next step, which is called search for suppliers. How do they search for the suppliers? They can search for those suppliers through making adverts, and they give people to bid. They give them adverts. When they put adverts, of course, people can apply. By the time what they put in that advert, they put what they want to be received and how long they want to be supplied with those materials, the quality, the quantity. Of course, they don't put the price. They may put the price or they may not, because sometimes the price is not affected by the company, or the price is not influenced or determined. Most of the time is not determined by the company. It is determined by the max forces of demand and supply. So for them, they just put what they want and they leave the price component, because if you know the price, then you should be buying. But since we are searching for customers, for suppliers, it means we don't know the price. So when we after making those adverts, we expect people to come and be applying. But when they're applying, what we put in an advert was like, if the company can deliver those items we have listed down, then they should submit their quotations. Submitting the quotations, it shows how much the company, depends on how much the company can supply to the organization, and at what price, even the quantities and the qualities, and how fast they can deliver those items. Having done that, we've received the quotations, then we screenshot, or we do screening of those quotations. Then we select those suitable ones which can deliver to us what we need at the right time, in the right quality and quantity. Then, having selected those ones, we can either go back and advertise them that we've gone through, or we call them. When we call them, then we send to them a purchase order. When we send a purchase order will be having the items we want, the rates. Of course, when they are supplying their quotation, they put the rates at which they are selling the items. So we shall be having the quantity, we shall be having the rate and the amount, plus the quality, the description of the items we want. Having made that purchase order, then we expect to receive the goods. When the supplier is submitting the goods to us, he comes with the goods received note. We verify everything through the receiving and the inspection department of material, or material department. After they have reviewed everything and they find that it is okay, then they will get us also a what? A purchase invoice. To the extent, if let's say you are paying cash, if you are paying cash, you just pay direct. Having verified that whatever you've received them and you've inspected them, they are okay, so you can pay if you are using cash. If you are not going to use cash, then they give you the invoice. When you receive that invoice, then you arrange on how to make the payments. Then the process, when you clear the invoice, then the process will be done. That's how we get to have the material we are using in the production. So allow me stop here for today. And in the next video, we are going to be handling the techniques of inventory control. These are very, very, very key because they involve some calculations, and I made them separate because they have some calculation which we are supposed to go into, but we go into slowly as you get to know much. I encourage you guys to subscribe to my channel so that you get to know more and more, because we are dropping more videos which can help you understand. I wish you the best until we meet in the next video.